and of course everyone that's online as well. We're going to go ahead and open this meeting up with a prayer. I'm going to ask if Supervisor Williams, if he would open us up with a prayer.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we come with thanks in our heart. We thank you for the opportunity to serve the great people of Octavia County. We pray, oh Father, that you will endow us with knowledge and understanding that we might be able to serve well. We pray for these board members and their families. Pray for Octavia County. We thank you, O Heavenly Father, that you have provided peace within our county. We pray for those individuals who fight on foreign soil, that we might have peace here in the United States. Now, Father, we pray that America will live up to its promise of justice and equality for all men. And we pray, oh Father, that you will continue to keep your protective arms around Octavia County and continue to produce a state of friendship, a state of justice, a state of equality for all of its citizens. This is our prayer. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Supervisor Williams. All right, moving right along on our agenda, we have our citizens comment period where any citizen can come up here, address the board for up to 3 minutes. All right, Mr. Turner.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Board, my name is Alvin Turner. One thing the sheriff department all for everything that they did in my mother's home going. Have a few concerns. The day after shooting, we had some grandchildren, someone doing a lot of shooting, and my sister is just a pool right across from her, and I definitely don't want her to get hit by a straight bullet or these young kids shooting high powerful guns, whatnot. It's on the Garfield State. They were doing some shooting. It was kind of distracting. But I definitely don't want my sister to get hit or Miss Burnett to get hit. And look, everything that's going on, we the NACP, we keeping our eyes on the small towns, Maven, Niles, and Coral, that white supremacy get started. It's pretty much for everything.
All right, thank you, Mr. Turner. To that point, Mr. Turner, like I said, if you have someone doing something like that, have you called the sheriff's department in the past, or if not, I'll be glad to get, the sheriff or one of his deputies to get with you on kind of the location you were talking about where the kids were shooting, for sure. So,
Just to make a comment along with that, there seems to be a great deal of shooting taking place, random shooting in the county. And a lot of times been called out on the road that I live on too, so I would actually sheriff department be mindful of that and try their best to address that, because like someone told me, a bullet don't know where it's going, but it's sure coming out of the barrel. So do be mindful of that. And Mr. Turner, that's a good comment that you made, because there's a lot of shooting, random shooting in the county.
all right.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Just state your name.
Yes, good evening. My name is Catherine Van Halsema. I'm thankful to be here speaking with you. I'm here because it's my intention to run for the County Election Commissioner seat for District 3. And while I've not yet been officially notified if my candidacy is qualified or not, I know that there have been some concerns raised as to regards my qualification with the 2-year residency requirement, so I'm here to head those concerns off at the pass. several pieces of documentation, proving my residency in Starkville since summer of 2018. I've also provided Mr. Robertson with copies of those things, and, I'm ready and willing to share them with the board when you're ready for that.
Certainly. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, if that clears, then of course you can run it. It's 2 years.
Great.
So, yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Just for the board's notification, I do have copies of her documentation, and when we get to that part, whenever it's appropriate, I did want to ask that her husband give some testimony, so if you would stay, I don't want, I want y'all leaving too quickly if we get to that point. Thank you.
I guess I got a question. Is it for the board to okay, the circuit clerk?
And that's gonna be the circuit clerk's office, but,
What it is I
2
have to
years.
present it to the board because the circuit clerk can't do it because it's for the election commission election.
okay. Yes, ma'am. Again, just state your name.
Okay. My name is Jessica Hill. Thank you for having me today. I also have applied for District 4 Election Commissioner. I have also not been notified whether or not I qualify for that position. But I come before the board today to discuss a concern about the Election Commissioner candidacy qualification process. It seems there is a break in the system process. I applied for the Election Commissioner position on June 1st, 2020, before the deadline. I applied using the required documentation provided by the Secretary of State of the State of Mississippi website. I met the requirements according to the Secretary of State website for the State of Mississippi and the Oktibbeha County of Mississippi website. A link for the Secretary of State website for the State of Mississippi is provided and in the related link section on the Oktibbeha County website. However, shortly after my submission, I was notified that I would not qualify for the position. I thought I had met all the requirements as notated on the Secretary of State of the Mississippi State website. However, this information was not provided on the Secretary of State website. I applied for this position after working with a group of citizens that agreed that I would be a great candidate for the position. Others might have applied, but not knowing that this would happen. However, they agreed to support me. I would like to be considered for being placed on the ballot for the general election for 2020 for election commissioner for District 4. I would also kind of like a response from this request today.
So who sent you that said you did not qualify? That came from?
I received a phone call after submitting my application after lunch saying that there's a possibility from the circuit clerk office stating that there's a possibility that I would be disqualified.
For what reason did they say?
So you have to live in the district for 2
2
years
years,
is
correct.
what the requirement. However, on the Secretary of State website, and I do have that documentation, it does not have that listed in the qualifications, and I have it outlined as well.
Okay. How long have you lived? I'm just curious. How long have you lived in the district?
In the district 1 year.
For 1 year.
I actually have lived in Oktibbeha County for way longer than 2 years. I just simply crossed the line, a simple line of one street to the next street that
Right.
disqualified me.
All right. Well, I mean, that will be a question that you'll have to have answered, of course, by Rob, by the circuit clerk's office. And I've always understood it to be 2 years. So that's not our call in essence, but,
Can I say this?
Sure.
The law was placed in on July 2019. But the Secretary of State website was updated December 2019, which they were given 6 months to add that information to the website. However, it was omitted.
being that,
I think our board attorney.
yeah, being this, Rob, what,
For clarification
This is what we're
purposes,
gonna
I
find
asked
out.
her, I sent word to her that I'd love for her to come and bring this up. She didn't do anything wrong. I wanted to be clear that she did what she was supposed to do. The website had not been updated at the time that she applied, so I thought it was important for her to be able to voice her opinion and allow her a chance to let this board know what occurred and why it occurred. Through no fault of her own, the website, and honestly, I think it comes down to this was an election year and we had group leaving and another group coming in, and it just didn't get put out there. So I wanted her to have an opportunity to at least let everyone know what the reasoning was as to why she didn't qualify. If she doesn't, I'm not assuming what this board will do or will not do, but if she doesn't qualify, I thought it was important for her to make certain that people realize that she wasn't not qualified because of another reason. That was the reason that we determined, as far as the law is concerned right now, that's what it appeared to be. And so she had received a phone call just letting her know that was a potential issue here, and I wanted her to have an opportunity to come here and let y'all know what was going on, and the general public needed to know. I didn't want there to be a situation where somebody thought that she was disqualified for another reason.
So that being said, what is the ruling? I thought it was 2 years and that was set in stone.
It is. It is. The statute, what she's referring to, and it is kind of confusing, there was a amendment added, or was gonna be added, and it never made it through. What she saw in some of the stuff that she researched this quite a bit. What she had pulled up was a statement that they were trying to change the law, but it never changed. It went back to the old way of doing it, but it never got updated on the website as to the qualifications, exactly what they were. So she didn't really have notice of that, and it just didn't have the opportunity. Now, an attorney could have looked it up for her pretty quickly, but she shouldn't have been required to do that. So I want it to be clear that the law is what the law is. However, it was not through anything she did wrong.
So the amendment that we're talking about just didn't make it
It
through
didn't make it through.
the
There was a
state.
Senate bill that was coming through that was gonna change some of those numbers. And honestly, y'all, this happens all the time. Whenever these bills come through, a lot of times things don't make it through, and it's confusing. And for her in this situation, I can understand, why she read it the way she read it. She did her due diligence as much as she could, and it was just something that was kind of out of her control, and there was no notice out there for her later.
Gotcha. Well, that's what
Attorney Rollins.
Yes, sir.
What conclusion can you give this candidate?
2 years.
At this point, she technically does not qualify. This board can look at other evidence. Generally speaking, that other evidence is evidence that suggests that she did live there for 2 years, or that she did have the required things, but the only thing she didn't meet the requirement on was the 2 years.
It's 2 years living there.
Yes, and I actually have, and I understand why we put laws in like that, because you don't want someone to come in our area and apply for a position and then have no vested interest. And I've been in Oktibbeha County for quite some time. I have residency proof, once again, just crossing the line and still wanting to be a part of this process today.
But I think the way the state statute reads, the way I've always understood it, is that you had to live in that district for 2 years. And so,
Well, the rule, the actual Senate Bill 230, it was updated this year. July of 2019. It was never put in place until July 2019.
The
You
updated
didn't have
Senate
to live there
bill
2 years.
says that you must live
Before July
in a location for
And
I actually have a
Yes,
printout of
ma'am.
the Senate bill. This is the Senate bill.
and which
To
part
speak on that,
particularly
Rob,
are you focusing on?
what she's talking about,
What she's referring to is a Senate bill that never became law.
it never made it through all the
She
committees.
did a
the-
great job looking at it, but it's the distinction between it actually passing and it not.
Yeah, difference in a bill being a bill and going through the chambers and passing versus a bill that never made it through and died.
This bill would have allowed her, if it had passed, to qualify.
Yes, sir.
Just living down.
And that was
there.
statewide, that would have been
Yes, sir.
for
I got
everyone.
you.
But it died in wherever.
This bill died last year? So if that bill died, then I do meet the requirements, because it says you have to live 2 years preceding, right?
That bill would have changed the amount of time to, I guess, no time. But that bill died, and he's on the state legislative body, so.
So that bill would have changed it where she would not have had to live there
Wait.
2 years.
Correct,
Bill
it would have
didn't-
allowed her to
didn't pass.
do it. It
Live
just
there
didn't
a
pass.
year.
And she read it very well. I mean, if it had passed, she would have nailed what she's talking about. It's just confusing whenever something like that doesn't pass. It puts everybody in somewhat of a confusion. Cause she did a great job looking at the legislative, documentation. It just unfortunately didn't pass in this situation.
I follow what she's saying. She's saying that the Secretary of State's website didn't actually have on there that bill didn't pass and the 2-year living in that district still applies.
Right.
Unfortunately, the law didn't get changed, and you still have to live in a certain area for 2 years. Basically, I guess that's what we're talking about.
But I really want to thank her for bringing, there's not very many young people that would come to the table and do what you did, so I want to thank you. And Mr. Taylor and I talked about you this afternoon, and he's very impressive. Stay involved. We want you to be involved. He's concerned that this is going to disappoint you to the point that you won't be involved, so stay involved. This is an important process, and we appreciate you doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, with all that said, Chris Taylor, Supervisor District
I almost didn't recognize you.
I look like Santa Claus. But anyway, with all that said, now, we know what you're gonna have to do, you're gonna do what the law says. Now, can she appeal that to who does it go to next if she disagrees?
If she disagrees, she'll need to hire an attorney to take it to, is it gonna be Chancery
Well,
Circuit?
Be circuit.
Circuit Court.
It'll be circuit court.
Why does she, so she's got to hire an attorney to appeal it, or the city?
She could represent herself, but I wouldn't suggest it. This
I know
election.
it's complicated, but I'm just saying, the law is the law. Sure, she didn't live there for 2 years, but it wasn't there when she read it. So the board got to do what the board's supposed to do,
But-
deny it or whatever, okay? When you deny it, does it stop there or can it go forward?
She's always able to appeal, regardless of what we do in here. You can always appeal. She can appeal this to the circuit court and have the circuit court look at it. But you gotta have some standing here, and if the law didn't change, if the law has not changed,
Right.
I'll discuss it with you further. I don't wanna,
I
don't wanna say
don't
something.
want all
that
those
makes her-
time, I just say, can it go forward?
Yes, sir, it could.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Again, yes, ma'am, state your name.
I'm Alan Landfair, and we're here, my husband and I, as vested taxpayers concerned with land which is landlocked on 3 sides, and a swamp has formed on the other side, and we cannot get to that property. And we've asked for help, and we see that the TVA was formed for the purpose of helping people with their social and economic areas in the watershed area of the TVA. And besides that, the welfare of people living back there is being endangered. The water is within 6 feet of 2 dwellings. Mosquitoes, beavers, reptiles are all there very close to those homes. And mosquitoes, they cause many problems: yellow fever, malaria, Rocky Mountain fever, encephalitis, and other. And also mosquitoes, they affect the cattle or the livestock. They affect humans as well as annoying people, as well as causing diseases that were mentioned. So we're here to demand that the land be open, the ditch be open so the water can drain off the property, because we're losing valuable soil. And we spent money there, and the land kit is suitable for farming, is suitable for use, but we can't reach the land. We also demand drainage tile and covers to be installed, gravel, and that the road be maintained, the road be developed and maintained. Now, this road existed as a road, but when people move from back there, the road now is not being kept up to to that land. So we would like for the road to be gravel as well as maintained to prevent further land erosion. Because if there's further land erosion, the land will be uninhabitable. It's already uninhabitable, but it can be in worse condition. So as vested taxpayers, we pay, tax in this county, $2,600. So again, we are demanding help from the county.
All right. Where is this at, Ms. Landfair?
It's located off Octop Road, Bradford Lane. It's at the end of Bradford Lane.
All right.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I am familiar with that situation. That area is flooded out real bad. And, seems like it need the creek need to be cleared.
Well,
Debris, it seems like.
right, it's a natural forming, creek, the ditch that empties into Catawba. But the water is stagnant because the beavers have dammed it up and, trees have fallen into it. And we don't have a machine. A normal farmer would not have a machine big enough to do what needs to be done. It needs to be opened up. And if it's opened up, then we can maintain it.
Is Bradford Lane on the county road registry, or is that a 911 road?
That is, I believe it's 911.
What color are the signs
Should,
for
should have
now?
a 911 number.
It should have Bradford Lane, and then if you see 911 on the road.
I just see the color of the sign is green.
Well, it does.
I think the biggest concern is that the creek need to be cleaned up. And a lot of debris
Right.
has fallen in the creek. Now, we have had, I think Johnny Carter has tried to get some of those beavers out.
Yes.
And that's step one.
That's step one, but that doesn't seem to be helping.
It hasn't opened it up so it can flow down. So if it can't flow, it's just, the trees are dying on both sides, and so you can see that a swamp is forming. So even back in 1933, Roosevelt had programs to reclaim swampland. So ours is being developed into a swamp. And so we wanna reclaim it.
Well, this seems like, and we do have later in our agenda, and Ms. Landfair, I saw that you were on this agenda, but we've got the Tombigbee River Valley. You need to stick around for that, and it sounds like this would be a perfect example of a project that they could try to take on, that may be sometimes above the head of our county road crews. Again, I know the area that you're talking about, not totally familiar with, your specific plot of land. Again, it's in Supervisor Williams' district and area, but, this may be just the perfect, thing for something like that, because these guys will come in and actually clean these creeks out in a way that we can't. And so we just recently joined in that, and, Mr. Kennard will come up here in just a moment and speak on that. And, we can definitely double back on that. The only problem is that it is a 911 road. I've got roads like that where there are wet spots that formed over time, be it beavers, be it when they cut the timber and things, the lay of the land changed, what have you. And sometimes it's out of my reach as a supervisor because it is on a private or a 911 road. And if it doesn't affect our county road directly, sometimes that can be a roadblock for us. But on this, with the Tombigbee Water Management District, this is something that they can do, that a lot of times that we can't. So stick around for that,
Okay.
and we hope to address that, I think, through that mechanism. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Landfair. Anyone else?
Did we discuss this last term? Supervisor Williams, did we discuss
Yes.
access to this property?
Yes, that's.
When we
that-
were
that
working
property-
on, okay,
That property was discussed, yes.
okay.
And then we did have, Mr. Johnny Carter he's been working, trying to get the beavers out and, things like that, but that doesn't seem to be working. Seems to be, need more attention than what we have done.
How long of a creek, of an area do you think it would be, if you had to say yardage?
You mean the width of it?
Or the length of it?
The length comes all the way from Beverly to Church, goes all the way from, as far as the entrance into the.
Okay, well, don't need to get,
It's probably about, I would say probably about 500 yards.
okay.
More.
So this is miles of a creek, you think, overall? If you had to say from beginning to end, from the church, not just your property, because of course,
Right.
we can clean just yours out and that's still not gonna release it.
Well, we getting the water that comes down from Hillbrook, and it's bogged up on our land. It drains from Hillbrook, and it's a natural creek that's being formed, a real ditch that's being formed, but it's not open, so the water can't flow. So it's stagnant, it stays there.
Okay. I was just trying to get a length, is, you know, the distance. But again, just stick around for when Mr. Kennard comes up here. Anyone else? If not, I'm gonna add something to our, agenda. We have a minority caucus scholarship, and I'm gonna let Supervisor Trainer, if he will, present that to the individual tonight.
We're fortunate this year to have a scholarship winner for the Mississippi Association of Supervisors Minority Caucus. And that individual is Mr. Elijah Robbins. Mr. Robbins, will you come forward, please? I'm gonna ask both of our new persons, if you don't mind, to get a picture of Mr. Robbins. If you don't mind, let me see if we can get a good picture, maybe get all the board members.
Would you be offended to take the mask down?
I don't think he wants me in that.
His mom and daddy won't see that face in the newspaper.
We gonna stand up around.
Check, bro. And just FYI, we've had, since I've been supervisor, not because I've been there, but we've had quite a few scholarship winners from Octavia County, and I want to thank the board for supporting MASMC down through the years. I suppose we've had at least 10 scholarship winners, right?
Yeah, I've seen
And I'm
4
on
or
the
5.
scholarship committee. And the scholarship committee did decide on our recipients too, so when we get that information in, we'll present those as well.
Just a little history, I think your aunt was the first scholarship winner we had. Is that right, Ms. Ward? I think she was. Yeah, that's been, almost 18 years ago. Yeah, that's been a
Time
while.
flies when you're having fun.
But nonetheless, we wish you well. Thank you, Supervisor Montgomery.
All right, that's a great little piece right there for sure. Moving right along, ordinance for false alarm calls, Mr. Warner.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening.
Tonight,
Yes, sir.
Patrick Warner, County Fire Coordinator. I'm here tonight to ask for the approval of a county ordinance to fine, property owners of repeatedly false, alarms in the county.
All right, so to that point, are we having, we're having some,
We were having a number of false alarms in the county. It's been a nuisance, and it's, we tried to address the issues, and there's nothing being solved with this. We've written letters, and like I say, there's been no resolve. To this date this year, I pulled the records, and I think we have 30-something false alarms in the county. And this is really at apartment complexes, just a few in general that we want to focus on.
so to that, and just to ask, kind of take me down the road. In other words, we get the first false alarm, second, third, well, how does that?
Well, we tried, it's a maintenance issue, I believe. Security Solutions, they won't even do business with the apartments anymore because they're not keeping up their alarm systems. And that's the reason we have to go over and over again, electrical issues and stuff like that. The apartment complexes aren't
I
their
got you.
equipment.
So say we do approve this tonight. First fire alarm, false alarm comes out. We just gonna warn them
We will probably
officially?
give them a warning, and it probably will not be one, it will probably be several. But you know, nothing's gonna get fixed unless you hit them in their pocketbook. And that's the way it is.
So
So we would probably do 2 or 3, and after the third or so.
you
come
start
in with the
finding.
fine.
Do you have a recommendation on it?
I have not, I would probably go with something similar to the Starkville Fire Department. They have something set up like this.
Okay.
I have not drawn anything up yet. Probably something we can draw up.
Maybe I can suggest you go through our board attorney first to make sure that the resolution is legal and true. And then bring it back before.
We also might.
If I would suggest too that you communicate
Yeah, we are.
with the alarm company, cause I have an alarm system myself, so when my alarm go off, I immediately call the company. Now, if the company doesn't immediately call you all, then really the company is at fault.
Well, it's not really the company, it's really the alarms repeatedly.
It's the,
The
and
alarm
I know what
system
he's
is
dealing with.
constantly going off.
A lot of times what we call the mechanical room
Yeah.
will have, there's things that are triggering it to go off.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes it may be 3 in the morning and it's gonna go off every night at 3 in the morning.
But
And it-
there's no work being done unless you have to actually go out to the site.
Mhm.
And the alarm company should call you in enough time to prevent you from going to the site.
And
So
that's-
really, there's no work being done as long as you get the call
That's right.
from the alarm system.
And that's not happening, the alarm
But the-
companies aren't calling us and telling us it's a false alarm.
I think the problem is, and I'm just trying to put 2 and 2 together, just from little experience, is that what we're finding out, it's not the alarm company is telling this apartment complex, you have problems with your alarm system. And it would be at a cost, but they're not repairing that system. So the faulty system keeps triggering this alarm, and it's a false alarm. It's nothing, you get there, there's no smoke, there's nothing. And I mean, everybody has to get out of bed, doesn't matter if it's 2 in the morning and wait out in the parking lot, it doesn't matter if it's pouring down rain. And if this happens, you know, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure it's specific.
Well, the apartments are aware of it, the managers are aware of it, and they've gone to their managers who are not living here. Nothing's getting resolved, and like I said, the only way to hit them is in their pocketbook. 'Cause
It sounds like
this is
you-
costing us money as a county. I mean, you talk about 30-something calls, that's 30-something times the fire truck is pulled out of the station. That's gas, you know, that we have to pay for nothing. And it's also a liability issue. Every time you drive a fire truck down the road on an emergency call, you know,
Could be something bad.
it could be something bad.
Um,
So I think it needs to be.
And I'd heard from a couple of the other fire chiefs, and I mean, are they in agreement with this?
They
as
are,
far-
cause it's a deterrent. I mean, you talk about, you know, the volunteers, they're doing this out of their free time. They get called out 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night, nothing's going on. There might be a so-called party at these, apartment complexes, have some intoxicated people there.
So okay, that would be a question of mine. If it's a false alarm, would a false alarm qualify someone 3 in the morning for fun pulls that alarm?
It does apply to that too, false alarm.
Okay, well,
But most of these issues are coming from electrical issues. Like I said, Security Solutions, they won't even do business with them anymore because their wiring is not fixed.
I would err on the caution of if someone comes out there and pulls the alarm because they want, you know, they want to see the girl in 4C. We've all seen that, right? So if it's something like that, just use common sense. But if it's mechanical problems, I got no problem with after repeated times of officially writing them, you know, and you're hearing from the alarm, the people who provide this service are telling you that they're not, you know, maintaining them or whatnot.
It is
I'm
a
for it.
building electrical issue. Like I
Okay.
said, Security Solutions will not even do business with. And you know when they turn them down, something's wrong.
Something's
I
wrong.
would just say that, I follow what you're saying, and it's costing the county resources and things like that. But again, I would like for you to get your language like you want it, and make sure it's legal and go through our attorney and then present it.
Sure.
Once you do that, yeah, we'll brush it up, come back at our next meeting, and this will be almost kind of a preview of
And
what
that's
what these
what I
groups are looking at. And so, get that, and we'll put it in our, packet for next meeting, and I'll support it for sure, because if it's something on their end, I mean, you think about when the alarm goes off and you're dead in your sleep, you know, that puts everybody in a position of danger, you know what I mean? People are making hasty decisions, running down stairwells, you know what I mean? So,
Well, it's county resources, but it's also safety of
Right.
people that live in those apartment complexes. To know that when the fire alarm does go off, that it's legitimate.
right.
So you would think that they would wanna, if it's a wiring issue, fix it as well, and maybe the notification's not getting all the way to the ownership. And this way it would.
So get with,
Maybe you can put in there some language that says the property owner or the apartment owner will be responsible for the fines, and then that might entice them to go ahead and fix some things.
And that's what I would like to get done with the.
just get with Rob, Miss Emily, I mean, and I don't think it'll be too much, like I said, you can mimic what Starkville Fire Department, and I think that, cause I remember, gosh, it's been 15 years ago when we adopted that, and you were just having repeated, and the problem solved itself. I don't even think that I don't know if they've ever given a fine for that, but it was odd how it all stopped when that began. So I think it's a good thing, like I said, for the liability issue, for the strain on manpower, and, you know, just safety issue all around for the people that live there. Like Supervisor Miller was saying, you cry wolf so many times when it's truly a fire. That's when the true impact would happen, because somebody says, oh, it's just that fire alarm again, and they just roll over. And then, you know, that's how people can get hurt and get killed. So I appreciate that, and come back to us in our July meeting, and we'll look at it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, moving right along, Tom Bigby River Valley Water Management District, Mr. Kennard.
And just while Mr. Kennedy is coming, I wanna thank him for coming. I
Oh, yes,
called him
sir.
and asked him if he would just come speak to the board and open himself up for questions. I mean, you know, we've kind of talked back and forth among ourselves about the possibility of, being a resource that the county, that help the county. So I just appreciate you coming to answer some questions and talk to us about it.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
We've done, you know, we're always, you know, open to come back and answer any questions you may have. I gave you a little handout. I think most of you have seen most of that before. I think I've given it to you before, but just want to give it to you again so you have it in front of you. I'm mainly here to answer questions. If y'all have any questions, I think we've been over what we do. I listened to what you just got through going through about close to Catawba and about the problem out there. That is what we do. I mean, knowing that area, I know the storm came through the subdivision out there, dumped a lot of stuff in Catawba. What, a couple of years ago, maybe it was now.
About 4.
Was it 4 years? But those are the kind of things that we do. And you're right, Mr. McCover, you're right. It's not, when we look at projects like that, you can't just look at that one landowner. We do have times we have to do that, but you need to look on downstream, because you can clean their area out across theirs, but unless you've cleaned it out on down below, it's still gonna back up. Beavers are a problem. I think we talked about it on the phone. I know I talked to Mr. Williams about it. We do cost share beaver control we'll match up to $10,000 a year. USDA provides that service for most of the counties. They can do a contract. I know they come out of Mississippi State. USDA oversees a lot of the beaver control in this area.
Theirs is normally around $7,500.
75 is our BCAP program.
That's y'all's BCAP, so we pay 50% of that in all the counties that participate. I still have a couple of counties that don't participate in BCAP and don't get this money. Lowndes County's a little different. They not only participate in BCAP, they also hire a separate person that works strictly for them, another USDA person hires, they got two to cover their county. And, that's the reason we go up to a match of $10,000, because they, Lowndes County requested, so we went up, we moved our cap up so that we could pay for both of those, or pay a portion of both of those, I should say.
Would you sort of address, the issue we just joined?
Yes, sir.
What does that mean? Does that mean that we'll now have to go all the way to the back of the line before we get a project done in Octavia County? Just talk about that a little bit.
Yes, sir. I talked to Ms. Garrett a little bit when I came in, just asked where we were. I think y'all have advertised for your ad valorem increase. Once you get through with that, you get all your paperwork done, everything's there, and you come into the district. You come into the district, there'll be a couple of things you'll do. You have voted to join, but once the official stuff, documentation, all your submittals come in, then you will do a couple of things. One, you will appoint a representative to our board. Then the governor will appoint a representative from Octavia County to our board. So you'll have two representatives on our board. As far as the work getting done, you come in with full, you come in just like the others as far as getting work done. Normally when we schedule work, we have big equipment. And we've got responsibilities from Kemper County all the way up to Alcorn County, so we're spread out. So what we normally do for logistical purposes, we'll start in the north, we'll start in Alcorn County, and we'll take care of 2 or 3 projects per county as we move south. We have 2, sometimes 3 crews, depending on the work, if it's small work, but you can count on 2 crews to do this. We're doing a lot of bridge work right now. There's still bridge problems. I thought we'd gotten past a lot of that, and we just had a resurgence of probably about 8 or 9 new bridge projects in different counties. But we'll have we have one bridge crew that takes care of that kind of thing. And then we have a clean out crew that takes care of the creeks and streams. If the bridge crew's not busy, then they do clean outs also. But we'll start in the north. We'll do 2 or 3 projects per county. We'll let the counties know before we get there. We ask the counties to prioritize, because a lot of our counties have multiple projects. We have some counties that have 10, 12 projects on our books. So before we get there, we ask them to prioritize. We know that sometimes it's not always right to just take the next project. Take the oldest project and work it, because sometimes the project that just came in, that just got approved, is a lot more important than the one that's been sitting there for 2 years. It may be threatening a road, it may be threatening some utilities or something like that. So we ask the county to provide us, before we get there, with our prioritized list. And we'll look at their top 3, maybe 4 projects, depending on how large they are, and how much time it will take. But no, sir, you would fall in as we're moving down. We get down to Clay County and Lowndes County, and Octavia County would fall in there before we go down to Knoxville County. Even in the best laid plans, it rains. So our plans change a little bit when that happens, because there's sometimes we just can't, it just gets too wet for us to work, and then we have to start going to where we have some high ground. And, but that's usually the only thing where we deviate from going county by county, going south, and we get through in Kemper County, we turn around, we go back to Alcorn County, we start the process over again, and we normally make that run at least twice a year. At least twice a year.
Just, you mentioned about prioritizing, the projects. You all are not involved at all as far as prioritizing for each county. That's strictly the county's job to prioritize.
In the past, our organization would just take first in, first out. And when I got there, I looked at that process and looked at the projects that were coming in, and it just didn't make sense to me, because I know for a fact some of the jobs we were doing that way were just not as important as some of the other projects that came in later. So I went to I make this trip to our board of supervisors, all 12 of ours, at least twice a year, sometimes 3, just to go meet with them and tell them what's going on. And I brought this to them. I said, would y'all be willing to prioritize your projects? I mean, they're your projects. You need to tell us what your priorities are. And they all agreed they would really like to start doing that. So that's what I do. I give them an update sheet of all of their projects, and they keep me up to date on their priorities. And then we give them a heads up when we're ready to come into the county, because we want them to know. A lot of times they're providing our materials. If we're doing rock jobs, if we're doing stuff like that, they're providing materials, and we coordinate that with them to make sure we have them on site when we get there. Especially bridge work, pilings, pile caps, decks. We want all of that stuff there on site, when we get there, so we coordinate that.
So you'll help on, when I say bridges, you're not cleaning the debris under a bridge, you're actually laying down some
We will
bridges.
do both. We go in, we clean debris out from under it, we take debris off of it's gathered around the bridge, we go in, on these smaller bridges, on a lot of the gravel roads, some of the paved roads, we go in, now, you would need to run this by your county engineer. We don't drive pilings with a hammer, we've got a vibrator we drive pilings with. So I cannot give your engineer the bearing pressure of those pilings. I can say we've never had a problem, but I cannot, for any of your state aid work, state aid guys are gonna wanna see your report for what that hammer did on there. So I don't recommend it for state aid work. But the small-
Mostly county road.
That's right.
work.
Wood decks, we don't do the wood deck. We'll put the pilings in, we'll put the pile caps on, put the stringers on, and the county puts the wood on the deck. Concrete decks,
yeah.
we do all those.
We have one wooden bridge just for a model here in this county. I'm sure like most counties.
You'd be surprised, we got a lot of them up in the very northeast counties.
And they hold up well.
They do hold up well.
Question that,
Yes, sir.
and hey, we're in now. Question is, let's just say, for instance, a project like that, and projects all over the county, and you come and you clean out a ditch, and the debris, trees, what have you, do you lay it to the side of the ditch, or do you take it away?
We're not equipped to haul off. Everything we do, we either row it down the side of the ditch, or just away from the ditch to where the ditch can be maintained. We either row it, or we'll pile it depending on what the landowner wants us to do. Most of the ones we deal with, the landowner will either come back and burn it, or they'll just let it sit there, and in 10
Kind of
years, when we're
become
back
part
there,
of the
clear it
fire.
out again, it just there's a berm or spoil bank there that will be obvious for that. Now, some counties, Lowndes County, Lee County, depending on where we're doing the clean out, they will want it hauled off, and they provide the trucks to haul that. We load them and they haul it. We coordinate with them, and they do that. I'm not sure how they coordinate that through their organization, but trucks show up and we put it in there and they haul it off.
You handle all of your permitting through MDEQ and?
The permits that we use, we don't go through DEQ for that. We do everything that we're doing for this under, nationwide permits through the Corps of Engineers. Corps of Engineers have some nationwide permits that we handle this under. Anything that doesn't fit those nationwide permits, we have to send it to the Corps, and the Corps makes those rounds to make sure all the regulations are done. I will say, when we get into beaver control issues where there are a lot of beaver problems, we request that the county use their B-cap, get those out of the way, have somebody blow the dams and get the water off of it. Because when my project manager goes to look at it, he's an environmental scientist. When he goes to look at it, it's going to appear to be a wetland. And then we're gonna come back to the supervisor, whichever one of you it is, we're gonna say, here's what it looks like, and this is what Corps of Engineers is gonna say about that. They're gonna say, it looks like a wetland, therefore you would have to mitigate, you have to go through these other things to do that, which is gonna cost the board more money. I mean, we will help with the process, but as far as the cost of remediation, mitigation, and things like that, we don't bear that cost. Most of the time, if it gets to that, the counties they stop. But a lot of
Step one
times,
is then, of course, clear that out.
that's right.
The beavers, get it to where it will,
And we come look at it, he'll be glad to come down and give recommendations on it, and look at it and say, yeah, but y'all need to get the beavers off of it first, then let us come back and look at it and see what it looks like.
I guess that would've been my next question, and you partially answered that. In
Yes.
other words, say it's in my district or any of the others' district. You would, before you got there, then you would come and say, hey, you need to get the beavers out. You need to do A, B, and C before we actually show up and begin the work. I mean, would you give or have a representative to give a little guidance?
We
as to
do,
what we
the
may
way,
do?
let me just give a real brief, just real quick about what we do. Mr. Williams will call and say, hey, I got a problem out in Octok community with a ditch, flooding some, property. So I'll send my project manager, we'll put it on the schedule, he'll call Mr. Williams, he'll set up an appointment, he'll go out, he'll look at it. He'll ride out there, he'll look at it, he'll see what it is, he'll walk it. He'll walk the ditch, he'll find out where the problem areas are. He'll log it into his little computer he's got, mark it, take pictures, and he'll come back and he'll tell Mr. Williams, he'll say, yeah, I think this is a, legitimate project, I think we can assist with this as long as our board, he can't speak for my board, neither, when it comes to approving projects, neither can I. But this is something we can take to the board. Mr. Williams will come back, put a resolution before y'all, he'll come back with a resolution that y'all will adopt, hopefully, and it will come to us, that resolution will come to us, we'll log it in, we'll do a fact sheet on it, which will, once a month, we take it to our executive committee, all the fact sheets that we get in on these projects. If the approximate cost is less than $30,000, then my executive committee can approve those. If it's more than 30, they recommend it to our full board, and they meet once a quarter. Then after we do that, it comes back to the county, and y'all provide paperwork for that, which are your easements, right of entry, attorney certificates, certifying that all the research has been done, all this stuff is certified. Then that paperwork comes back to us. Once we get that, we issue a work order, it goes in the list.
That's a project ready to go.
That's a project ready to go.
Shovel ready.
John, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about Hollis Creek.
Okay.
That's the one that, we have a lot of, that runs from in the city limits, comes under Poorhouse Road, floods all the time now, flooding up in the city limits, all the way down South Montgomery. And a lot of that is probably from expansion, as well. So, the creek is not holding the water in areas. So what do you do in a situation like that? Would you assess the creek and say, okay, if by cleaning it out, the water will be able to flow fast enough that it doesn't go across the roads? Or would you recommend expansion of the creek? I mean,
We will look at it, Ms. Miller, as far as cleaning the creek out to stay within the confines that the creek is now. We cannot channelize, we cannot expand, we can't make it any wider, any deeper. We can't do that. The Corps, if you start doing that, then you're getting outside of the national permit that the Corps has. It's not to say that it can't be done. There's just a process that the Corps will have to come in. They'll have to do an assessment. You'll go through planning, you'll go through regulatory, you'll go through all of that to get the proper documentation, the proper permits to expand that. What we would do is we would come in and see if there's anything stopping, if there are any blockages in the creek. And we would, a lot of times we don't just come in and just work from point A to point B, just cleaning everything out. Sometimes there's silt and stuff in there that we can get out. Most of the time, it's just log jams. We'll go in and there are log jams that have, one tree fell and everything else washed up against it. We take those out and pile them up. If there's trees that are leaning over the creek that are gonna be a problem in the next year or so, we send a chainsaw crew in there and they cut those trees, drop them down, and we pull them out and we pull the rest of it out. We do both of those.
so do you get right of entry and everything? I mean,
Y'all do that.
okay.
Y'all, the board takes care of all the easements, right of entry, and an attorney certificate to certify that everything's been done.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I've got a question. So, you mentioned a supervisor just picks up the phone, calls you, so I got a project. I mean, is that sort of how it
I
works?
get it all, we get it all the time. They either call me or they'll call my project manager, Richard here, and they'll call him direct sometimes. It just, you develop a relationship, when you work with the counties like this, y'all know this, you develop that relationship with them, and they've got my number. I've gotten calls 6 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock in the morning. They get, whenever they get something on their mind, they tend to call. But it's just, you call, we come look at it. The big thing is it comes back before the board. If you have a project, you bring it back, you present it to your board. They get a resolution, then that's what we work off of. If we don't have a resolution, we don't do any work. We get calls from, once the citizens know that what we do at, like a lot of these counties, we've been doing this work in the majority of these counties since 1968. And all of these people know. There's been several generations that know what we do. And we get calls from them that say, can you come look at this? And we just have to remind them, okay, who's your supervisor? Well, I'm in District 5, Octagon County. Okay, you need to call Mr. Williams, and you need to ask him to request us to come look at it. We push that back to y'all. We're not gonna come into a county without being invited by the people that pay our bill, that we work for.
That was a good question, yeah, that was.
Can you all do multiple projects in a county at the same time, or how do you normally?
We'll try to do 2 or 3 counties. We won't take a role. I'll only send one crew, and they can do 2 to 3 projects in a county. Yes, sir. They can.
Well, that was it, just the mechanism, so we as a board, we don't need to pass anything that, hey, on Longview Edenton Road through that bottom is so wet. Do I officially as a board pass it as a resolution that gets to you, or it's just a phone call to you?
Well, no, it'll have to be an official. You can call us and we'll come out early.
And help with the scope of
that's right.
maybe.
We'll help y'all with the scope of what the resolution needs to be. I mean, because what you're gonna get from, what you're gonna get, like from the landowner right here, they're gonna say, our property's flooding right here. Well, when Richard gets there, he's gonna look, he's gonna say, okay, there's some stuff that needs to be taken out. But let's walk further down. And then he'll identify to y'all, you got a problem. Instead of cleaning out 300 feet, we need to clean out the next mile and a half. I mean, I will tell you that gets interesting because, unless we get the easement to go through there and clean it out.
A lot of landowners, but I mean,
There's a lot of landowners that just don't want us doing that. And we've had a lot of projects die because, we can't do anything about that. It looks bad, but we can't do anything, and that's when the board looks at it and says, okay, we don't need to do this, or we'll hold on to this project. We'll just put it on hold until these other landowners maybe decide they want to do it. I've got some projects on my books that are 2001, 2002 projects that are still just board hold, waiting for landowners downstream to decide that they'll land to change, so the next landowner can say, come in and do the project.
and that's the landowner's right.
It is, and if they don't sign, we don't go in.
Even though those people would need help, if somebody's downstream is not gonna allow it, that would affect them.
We can't, if we can't get downstream to clear the blockages, we can't make the water flow off of their property.
What if it's on a blue line? If it is actually on the Corps of Engineers, a blue line, and I really don't own that blue line in my eyes. In other words, the landowner doesn't.
You do, but you don't have a lot of rights on it, let's put it that way. Yes, sir.
So I get what you're saying, because your equipment would have to be on the landowner's
It does.
property.
We have to put the stuff somewhere.
I mean, you can't paddle down that with an excavator.
And even if we can't, as far as the way the deed is written, as far as your attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, even if it's a blue line, you still own that property. The property is still yours. You just have to get permission with what you do, and there's things you can't do in the buffer zone on it and things like that. We work on blue lines all the time. I mean, we work on big creeks and streams, and we do that based on the Corps' nationwide permits. We can do it, but that landowner has got to, he owns the legal right to that piece of property of whether we can come and go and what we can do.
Under that permit though,
Yes,
does
sir.
that permit cover you the whole, I guess my question is, when you get a permit, is that permit for a certain section, or or is it for the whole?
When we do that, we do it based on that project. And that project is very definitive. We'll have a starting point and we'll have an ending point.
Okay, you answered.
And
my
that starting
question.
point, we have done them that are 50 feet, and we've done them that are 5 miles.
Do you base it on a GPS coordinate?
We
or
do.
Okay.
We do. We go in, he goes in with his logger, takes the pictures, he logs all his pictures, and we'll go in when we start a project, and we'll set flags for our crews. We'll set a flag at the starting point, a flag at the ending point. And when they get to those points, that's where they stop.
So when you get your certificate and DEQ is okayed it, and you got the right of way and everything that's tied into that, you could go into that area, go from one end to the other. Technically, the county could do the same thing, is that, or do y'all have a special permit process that allows you to do it?
We don't have a special permit that allows us to do that. It's just that we can go in on that private property and clean those areas out. I don't know if the county can do that. I'm not sure.
I'm not either.
I don't think to be honest, I don't think they can put county equipment on those pieces of property unless it's close to the road and it's fixing to cause imminent danger to a public road or utility.
It has to affect our road.
It has to affect a public road or utility. I'm not coordinating, we don't send our stuff through DEQ, I send it through Corps of Engineers. That's who.
So you can avoid that process altogether?
I don't know that we're avoiding, I just know that was the process set up when I took over with, as the executive director. Everything goes through Corps of Engineers.
I know when we had to do some, storm cleanup projects, they were requesting us to have Corps of Engineer permits,
Right.
but there was an exception where we didn't need it. And with the storm cleanup.
My concern is dealing with this, and nothing to get y'all's project, I think we get this going, but we've got other projects out there that frankly, we can't wait a year or whatever. Some of these are gonna have to be done, but we're tying it into private property, and you kinda answered I'm only asking for an answer on this, and it's just taking forever to get an answer back, but we're having a hard time because it does affect our public roads, but unfortunately, it's further back what's creating the problem.
Yes, sir.
Is that fair to say?
We've gone in and done it, and as far as the time limit, I'm not sure how long this process takes for y'all to get all the official stuff done as far as we're concerned. But, I'm planning projects right now, I'm laying projects out about a month, 2 months out, looking at where we're gonna be and when we're gonna be there. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
It does.
Now, as far as doing work off of the right of way, I mean, we do work in NRCS, all of your EWP projects. I don't know how many of those y'all have done a year, or if you have any done. Emergency watershed protection.
We've had one,
Yeah,
Longview Edenton, but
But
I mean, it floods the road, there's water that deep in the road.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as, if it's threatening a road or a utility or something, NRCS will do the design. And for our member counties, we provide that work. I say we provide it. We will look at the project, and if it's the size of something that we can do, we'll go in and do it. It doesn't cost the county a dime. Normally you have to put up 25%. They pay us to do the work, and we pay the 25% of the county share. So those EWPs don't cost the county a dime for us to do. Saves y'all a little bit of money. Mill Creek Line Creek up in Clay County, we did that with NRCS, and there was no road threatened by it. It was 5 miles of nothing but just cleaning out debris and trash that had been dumped in from tornadoes and different things that had come through there. So that's the kind of work.
This has just become such a major issue for us that we're gonna have to get a program that kind of keeps us ahead of the ball, and I've got to figure out how to make it work for us.
That'll give you a little bit better idea of what we do. I mean, I know it's off today before I left office. Something a little bit bigger you can see. I'm gonna get that cord here. Yes, ma'am. Any more questions?
Yes.
I'll be glad to answer whatever.
Should we give you a list of projects that we deem to be important? A list of
When we get all the paperwork straightened out and y'all come on board, I would expect, what I would expect from y'all would be a phone call and saying, we need you down here for, to look at some projects. And just have your list made out and we'll start looking.
I'm sure you'll need
It's
you.
gonna be hard for us to develop.
I was gonna say, you better bring somebody with some walking boots, because I'm gonna tell you, we'll probably have several.
Well, let me tell you about Richard, about what we do. When you get ready to walk, go ahead and have you a pair of snake boots.
I was
They-
gonna
they
say, with
wade-
some chaps on.
They wade out in it and they go to work. So that's what they do.
We thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Absolutely.
And, you certainly cleared a lot up, and like I said, we look forward to being in the district.
Well, we look forward to y'all coming on board. Thank y'all for
Yes,
y'all
sir.
here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
Ready?
All right. Moving right along, 2020 to 2023 four-year road plan, Mr. Baggett. Good evening. Good evening.
I think everyone has seen a copy of the four-year road plan, proposed four-year road plan.
I've sent, like I said, I've got with you and sent mine in. It's not in our packet. I don't see it.
So supposed to make copies? We don't have any.
I don't have it in my packet, but I gave you my list.
They had already picked up their packet when I got my copy. You didn't send them a copy?
No, I just sent it to you. Ask you to review.
We'll go over this at the next meeting.
Huh?
So we don't have a copy, so we can do this at the next meeting?
Yes, we can. I mean,
I got this Friday afternoon.
Four-year road plan.
yeah, I mean, I'd like to.
You have some projects that waiting on that.
I vote you accept before you roll.
Well, I mean, I already said what I
Was
said.
everybody within budget? That'd be my first question.
I put everybody about the same budget based on what you have, and, nothing else. The average
I
budget
can
is
go
like,
make 5 copies of it.
yeah,
Is that what you approve?
the average budget is,
You don't, not for my benefit, like I said, I'm making a motion, we accept it. It's gonna be adjusted anyway as we go.
Yeah. And I do have another.
It's just a plan. It's just a plan. It'll be adjusted.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I'm talking.
okay, in the meantime, until she gets back, we talked about another excavator.
Go
We
ahead.
talked about another mini excavator.
Okay.
My commission advertised.
Yeah, we got a
Wait a minute,
motion
wait a
to
minute, what was
advertise
it?
for a mini excavator by Supervisor Howard,
Second.
second by Supervisor Trainer, to advertise for another mini excavator, just to advertise. So we got a motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any more thoughts, questions on the matter?
Yeah, I have a question. And I'm gonna vote in favor of, it, but I do wanna know who we're gonna come forward with some equipment to, pick up debris from the side of the road and cut limbs off the side of the road. I hope, I wish that you would come forward with some kind of recommendation for that.
I will, I'll have it at the next board meeting. But if you'll review I have put that in my plan every year.
He's requested, but I think it was a budget issue, but, I know this, I know sometimes that our guys are getting overwhelmed with the amount of trees on the sides of right of ways, that people are asking for. And, if it ever gets to a point where we can't, if our men are comfortable with doing, say a dead tree that may be leaning the wrong way, in the past, we have, subcontracted it out, hired contractors, but it may be that we come to a point where we need to get some equipment, but by all means, bring that to us maybe next meeting.
Okay. Another issue we have,
Wait a minute, we
especially
gotta
on the
finish
Black Duck
this.
project, is access by the trucks. The roads leading into the project are gonna be, damaged considerably. We issued permits,
And so I just thought I'd bring it to the board that these roads are gonna need to be, upgraded once this project is done.
So you're talking about the material that's coming in is gonna damage the existing roads.
That's right.
In the past, and it was in Supervisor Williams' district, we had a gentleman or a group, a company that hauled some dirt. In other words, they came out of the dirt pit, and from where they came onto the county road, from point A to B, we assessed the road before, then we assessed the road after, and then they put up a bond on something like that. I mean, a project of this magnitude, we may need to do that again.
Yeah, but they building our road though.
I get that, but,
Just like us building road, they building our road.
what is your
That last
estimate, how
project
many
was the private project.
miles or how much of a road, how much road area do you think is gonna be affected?
Well, I know Parker Road, Outlaw Road, and these are roads that are gonna be affected due to construction that has nothing to do with blackjack. It's for the power stations, that they're building on blackjack and Barton.
And they're also going to affect Blackjack itself. So they gotta come up, they gotta go to Park Road.
That's right, they gotta go to Parker
And
Road.
they gotta go to Outlaw, but they
And
gotta
Fields.
come up, they gotta come up Blackjack,
That's right.
yeah.
Okay. I'm getting the route in my head. So how many
They
loads?
they really need to have documentation to be able to afford the repair on the road afterward.
They'll be hauling 3,000 tons of stone. And, I figured that's around 300 trucks of stone. Is what they're gonna be hauling. That has nothing to do with the Blackjack project.
Okay. These are other projects.
Okay.
I guess my question then, like, Supervisor Trainer said, if we're mixing their traffic in with our traffic that's building, doing our project, how we determine what to charge the company that's building the stations?
Well, based on, what could happen, I'd say have a bond of at least $50,000 for those roads, a $50,000 bond.
Correct me if I'm wrong now, the people that build the Blackjack Road is not doing that substation.
No.
That's gonna be on Outlaw
Right.
and gonna be on Palms.
And
These are
Fields.
different contractors.
That's right.
Right.
So we're talking about
Well, we
a
talking about
scope
different
beyond
deals.
Yeah,
Blackjack.
different contractors.
Different deal.
We're talking about a scope of work beyond the Blackjack project.
Whole entirely different project.
So,
Well, I've got a similar situation that's about to happen in my district that's gonna affect county roads, 300 loads plus of timber comes out. So 300 truckloads of stone, 300 truckloads of timber. There's really no difference there, so if we're gonna look at that, Parks and Outlaw, then, you know, it's gonna be Old Highway 12 and, Travis Lane and some on Buckner Road, you know, the same situation that I'm gonna be facing. So, we need to come up with some, either we're gonna have them post a bond or not, you know, and I told him I would get back with him after this meeting, actually. So, he's wanting to know what, direction they need to go with. So, I mean, do they need, in other counties, I know they've had to do that. Sometimes that's not popular, but it's unpopular too when the roads get torn up and we don't have the money to replace them.
thank you, Mr.
So, I mean, it's something that we're faced with as a county, we need to be uniform on. Thank
Do
you.
we have a heavy hauling ordinance?
I asked for it a few years ago, but we don't. It's gotta be within legal weight,
Yeah.
as long as it's within legal weight, they're okay. But, I know in other counties, and I don't think we need to get to this point, but every time somebody comes out on a county road, they're subject to, through the permit process, depending on how much they bring out, that they may face posting a bond, and then, of course, we go out, or they would go out and look at the condition of the road before, during, and after. But, you know, I don't wanna hold any project up like that, but at the same time, we've gotta be fiscally responsible and understand.
So basically, we would be holding them responsible for starting from Bardwell Road, going all the way to the project site. Okay, that roadway is in pretty good shape, so, and that's still good.
Something to consider, you know, just.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah, we're talking about
Attorney
blackjack.
Robinson was trying to make a comment about that, I don't know.
I think that at some point, we're gonna have to make a decision as to how we want to. I always thought there was a state law that required some type of bond at some point in this, but apparently not for what we're talking about, not for the damage that's being done.
I think we can hold them, make them do it, make them do one.
Within our contract, but to the point that Supervisor Trainer's making, that you may be adding to your cost in the overall,
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna be paying for it, so it's clear, so to his point, we're gonna be paying for it one way or the other. Either we're gonna pay to fix the roads, or there's gonna be a bond that comes back and fixes them. Is that kind of to your point, that it's gonna be included in the price
Yeah.
that we pay?
And I guess, is there a way to separate that? In other words, if
How would it be?
we, the county, are doing a road project,
Is there bond?
Because if you have to fix what you are destroying, they're gonna include that in their price whenever they bond it, if that makes sense.
No, what we're not talking about the people that's working for us, we're talking about the one that's building those additional
Oh,
substations.
well, then I think we can easily.
Matter of fact, they're actually getting, if they go through Blackjack Road, this project road, they won't be charged for that. But there's a portion from Bardwell going to their site that's in pretty good shape.
Right.
yeah,
I think that
it's
we
just
would have to start
redone
including that in our-
last year too.
Yeah.
That's right.
What they're doing, it's not the contractor that we.
It's not burned.
I don't think.
No, it's not burned.
It's, his people that he's got to haul the stuff off, that's tearing up the roads, is my understanding. And
Well, they
they-
getting ready to do some new substation,
Got
something.
that to do with us.
Well, they did that for
Three.
me. Yeah, we got, they paid us, they paid us 50,000 or something for that. Now, what we can do, as opposed to them taking the route that they wanna take down Artesia Road and out, they should take the route to the nearest state highway, which will be back up Spring Street and hit 12th.
But these people have to go down Blackjack.
Yeah,
They have to go down Blackjack.
They're going to Outlaw, Theodis, and,
Oh, this is for our county projects.
no,
No, it's the substation.
substation, electric substation.
Doesn't
I
have
think,
anything to do with us.
why don't we
Nothing
just
to
do
do with
like
us.
we normally do with loggers? We route them. But before but what we need to do then is have our engineer to go out and assess the route, the way we route them. And at the end of, require them to have a bond. And at the end of the project, make a determination on how much damage that they did to that route, and require them to reimburse the county that amount. I mean, that's about the only way you can do it.
That's what we did on Artesia the last time, before they get to going.
Yeah, that's about the only way you can do that.
So through the permit process, require that bond.
Require that bond, have our engineer to go out and assess the condition of the road before they start.
To how much
And
of
the
a
route
bond.
that they're going, and require
So,
some guesstimate type.
Well, he'll, of course, yeah, the
Yeah,
engineer will let
yeah.
you.
And at the end of that project, when that project is complete, let them go back out and re-inspect and see how much damage that they've done to the road and require the
I think that's the fairest way to do it. And it's to the point where roads cost so much. We're gonna have to,
So-
other counties are doing it.
So we're wanting to add to our permitting process the requirement of a bond for heavy haulers, whether it be
Per the requirements or recommendation from the county
based
engineer.
upon 50 loads or more.
I think the county engineer would probably tell us how much.
Okay, well, we just need
Based
to
on
get,
case-by-case
Okay.
scenario in his recommendation, if it needs a bond, so.
And I guess, in fact, if it's, cause I remember going out Blackjack or Bartwell or somewhere, we had to keep going in and keep patching that road in order for traffic to pass. So if they're damaging the road to the point to where they're actually, we're having to go in
Blackjack's one.
and fix this road, we need to keep that cost too, so at the end of the project, you know.
Yeah, like
Okay.
Artesia Road, when they came up and down Artesia Road, they just, in his district,
Yeah.
they tore up that road.
And yeah, and these
But they had
roads we
to.
just fixed.
They were okay with it in the, beforehand.
And you can keep them off a lot of your roads. Don't
Correct.
route them.
Right.
Well, that's
On
why I
roads
say
that-
route them the way you
Yeah,
want
you
to.
ride, yeah, you don't ride them on your good roads.
Well, yeah, we have a way of, through the permit process, it's up to us within reason that we can route them, you know, in the way that does the least damage to the road system.
So can we have something in place and be ready to take action on it next week?
But first, we got a motion and a second, and then we'll do that, on that,
For
to
your-
advertise on the mini excavators. We got a
Okay.
motion and a second. All those in favor, motion carries on that. And then to that point right there, I mean, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we, through our permit process, through the recommendation of the county engineer, and if it's necessary to post a bond per his recommendation, that we do so, and then inform whoever the heavy haul, be it dirt, be it logs, be it rocks, or whatever. If it's deemed that it's something that needs to be a bond posted, that we make them do so, to the amount recommended by our county engineer. And that's my motion.
Second.
All right, motion by myself, second by Supervisor Howard. Any more discussion on that?
Yes, is this for the substation only? Or
No,
just
sir,
for
this is
any-
any, like I said, this is for, be it dirt, be it rocks, be it logs, be it somebody bringing in catfish, you know what I mean? Whatever, something that requires them to possibly post a bond. Now, somebody's getting 6 loads of pine trees, whatever, out of somewhere, and he's a little old, you know, he'll need a permit, but, you know, and as long as they follow that route. But if our county engineer says, hey, look, they got 4 loads coming out of here, they're a little short bob truck and it's 25,000 pounds, then we won't do that. Yes,
Can
sir.
I ask a question?
Sure, yes, sir.
So, Rob, this would be to you, so if they go out, and then you call me and say, do I stand on the route? Are we figuring on civil?
We can-
Unless we do an ordinance where it's a criminal charge, it's kind of a civil charge, right? I just wanna know the direction of how we
Yeah.
do it, what the supervisors calls us and says.
It would be a civil, but we could attach a fine amount in here if that would help in dealing with that dynamic. Or we might want to find out what the engineer says first to determine, because it may not be. My
Well-
understanding of this motion is that this is to have our engineer look and see if this is.
Do they need to post a bond? To that point, I think Supervisor Trainer touched on that, is that we need to do a heavy haul ordinance, in other words, and that would add teeth to that. In other words, if you catch them off that route, in other words, you go and you say, hey, log truck guy, where's your permit? His permit says he needs to be on Turner Road, and he's on Love Hill Road, when he's not supposed to be, and that's off his route, then that ordinance would give you the teeth to enforce what law. So, I mean,
And I have a uniform traffic citation and an arrest citation. So I'm trying to figure out if the affidavit process, which would make it criminal then. So I just want to get guidance on how we
This would be
handle
traffic.
it when they're not doing what your order says for.
well, that's a good question, and I think that's something,
I've got some
It'd be
samples
traffic.
all in
Be a
ordinances that
traffic
other
ticket.
counties have adopted
Let-
over the years.
Can we, let's make this, in your motion, add this to asking our county engineer to look at this process to help us come up with a ordinance.
heavy haul
Yeah,
ordinance.
I've got several that other counties have adopted over the years.
Yeah, I remember several years when we looked at this, in our packet, I think it was Lee County, I think Hancock County, Madison.
and-
It was 4 or 5 different other counties. I think even Lowndes may have been in there, Clay. But, they're all kind of uniform, but we need to adopt our own that fits us.
Can you email those to us, Ms. Emily, so we can review those? There's no need to reinvent the wheel if those ordinances work.
Okay. And so I don't have a problem with adding that to add that amendment to that. Anybody else? If not, I got a motion by myself, second by Supervisor Howard. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Unanimous?
Is there one that he's supposed to be looking at, that we need to get him to look at,
I would check.
that y'all were talking about while I was making copies?
Right, he need to look at that one now.
Madison.
About the substation being built on Outlaw and Park.
Then we need to do an order to asking him to look at that, or to assess
He
it.
does.
Okay, so we need a motion and a second on that.
They're
Another
hauling,
second.
they're hauling things that doesn't pertain to any work that we are doing.
So we need to make a motion to,
Whatever what y'all are talking about, what we're concerned about, what's being hauled now, we need to get him to go look at that.
okay, so we need to make a motion in a second to assess the substation out there off of
Parks and Outlaw.
Parks and
And Outlaw and Black Jack gonna be going down to Black Jack.
and get our county engineer to assess that. So I need a motion in a second. You do that. Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard to do just that, and task our county engineer checking that out.
And who is the hauler, do we know?
Yeah, we know who it is. I don't know if we did it off the top of our head, but we got it.
Well, don't, and I wouldn't name them in here, but to get up with that company and make sure we're fair on both sides, for sure.
Okay.
Okay. So we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion on that? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Okay,
And here's the road plan, guys. So, or do you have anything else?
one other thing regarding, but it has to do with the road plan.
Mr. Bowman,
Yes, ma'am.
did you, see those pictures today for White Oak? The
I saw the,
damage?
I saw the email, but,
I texted to Ron.
oh, okay.
You know, last term, we did that road twice because of the detour, and it's got some issues again. The HOA claims it's county vehicles doing it, but could you go out there and take a look at that road and see what we need to do?
Yeah, we did quite a bit of work on it last week, dig outs and all. When did they contact you?
Sunday,
Oh,
with pictures, and said that, you know, it's county trucks that tore it up, they felt like it was, so.
Did we
You
just
can go out and
finish?
take a look at it.
Were we hauling dirt through this?
Where is this now?
I don't know, I mean, it's double, you know, I don't know that it is, that's just, we need to take a look at
I
it.
think they saw us out there working, and we left it kind of rough because it needs to settle in. I'll go look at it.
I mean, it's actually, the surface is cracked from double wheel trucks.
Yeah,
You can see in the pictures, something extremely heavy has gone through there.
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else other than the four-year road plan?
I
Although,
was gonna ask to get permission to have the county engineer to go out and stake some right of way on 2 roads that we're working on.
all right, what roads are those?
Cameron and, Howard.
All right.
No, we're gonna start working on some more, but they're not, no stakeout gonna be required on those.
So those are the ones that actually need to be staked out
At this
to
time.
begin, okay.
That's right.
And that's Cannon and Harrell Road. So
Right.
Motion for approval on Cameron and Hale Road for stakeout.
motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard. Any more discussion on that? Not? All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, before you, we see the four-year road plan, of course. This is just a plan and it can be amended, changed.
Are these prices based off the current oil prices? I was hoping that the money would go a little further.
No, because that varies, especially on the project that you're gonna do. It's gonna be a state aid project pretty much. And so at that time,
you get a monthly printout as to the oil prices, and the price goes up and down.
I just thought with them being, oil prices being lower right now, that maybe
If you had a project
get more
going,
done.
if you had a state aid project going now, it would go up and down pretty good, and now it would stabilize, but they do it every 2 months, 2 or 3
So
months.
these prices are based off of what it is currently?
It is. I got a printout from the county engineer's office and used that unit price to come up with the prices.
What is that gonna be, a reclaim and asphalt? So that's gonna be a state aid project?
Part of
No,
it
she
is,
meant, what.
Oh, she wants the county.
Done with her county money, it's gonna be state aid.
Okay, we're gonna do, can't afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got to be done, it's state standard.
You gonna bid it?
I was gonna bid it.
yeah,
Okay, well, you gotta get with Clyde on that.
it's a
then.
state aid road, well, part of it is anyway.
But she was not gonna fix it to, she's not gonna use state aid money to do it, she's gonna use county money to do it.
Right, I just figured it like a state aid project.
So it's gonna be bid, so it could be more or less, once you bid it.
But that's what I was asking the board right now, like oil prices are low, if those roads like that, that we know, we might get more done for the tax dollars, you know, more road.
To get it done now.
Cause I'd like to be able to do it 4 and 5, the entire, in both districts, the entire road.
That's not a problem, just get Clyde to come back with a program.
You gonna
What
wait
after?
after,
It's not,
it's not gonna happen.
not yet.
I think these are floating prices anyway. I mean, if it costs less, you know, you pay less. If the oil prices are back high, then, I mean, I don't think you can, you know,
And there's a section each month in each estimate in the state aid estimates that say, fuel adjustments. And they adjust the fuel either up or down, based on the cost of the fuel at that time.
Well, we've got a project coming on board, which in the next month or so would be the Longview Road project, and I certainly hope for the short term that the fuel prices stay low, which would help that project for sure. And of course with Blackjack as well, so, but, we have very little control over that, but we're in a good time right now, so, not a bad idea to ask. Has everyone gotten a copy of this 4-year road plan, kinda looked over? And, I'm satisfied.
On Miss Miller's project, we just need to get Clyde going on that, so we can get it advertised.
Get it done, I mean, in as quick as
I
possible.
mean, if the money can be allocated, then go ahead and move forward.
Well, I mean, wouldn't we be better off to bid that, or, I mean, I'm just asking, is this asphalt?
Well, I mean, if it's gonna have to be done to state aid standard.
You gonna have that emulsion in there, you know
I
what I
mean,
mean?
it's going to be done to state aid standard, so you gotta get the state aid engineer involved anyway. I mean, we can't just haphazardly go out there and just,
Well,
Yeah.
that's the reason I was saying.
no, I think our crew can do it, but now it's gonna have to be done to state aid standard. You gotta have a state aid engineer on site, he got to prove everything.
Yeah.
And that'd be more of a county engineer question and see if he
That's
thinks
right.
that could be feasible.
I agree.
I mean, I'm fine with it either way, but.
And that's quite
I'll get up with you.
just to be honest, at this time, that's quite the magnitude of that project might, because it's an asphalt project, if it was, sealed, Latin sealed, it'd be one thing, but I would, at this time, hate to take on a project that big with our paver machine and paver equipment and expertise.
To see if it would stick properly or the depth.
And, well, the overall appearance and everything, really, on a project that big. A half mile maybe, but I think that's 4-point-something miles.
Yeah, four.
Contract that one out.
Yeah, well,
It's gotta be striped anyway.
Maybe not.
yeah.
So we need to get before,
Contract that.
we'll see, like I said, get with Supervisor Miller, get with Clyde, and maybe next meeting, I'm sure he'll be here. He'll give us a good recommendation and as to what we need to do or not do, so. But other than that, I've seen the 4-year road plan, I've looked over everyone else's, of course. Budget, with the money is limited, but I think everyone has put their best foot forward on a plan. like Supervisor Trainer said, it can be amended, changed. But I'm satisfied with the roads that I put on there at this point, may add a few more. And we'll see, you know, how far the money goes, depending on the price of everything. But at this time, is everyone ready to adopt our 4-year road plan?
I've got, 2 changes on in District 3.
Okay.
That says Valley Ridge Road, which should be Valley View Road. And Sellers Road
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Valley who road?
should be Valley View instead of Valley Ridge.
Okay, yes, sir.
And Sellers Road, I had it down for slurry, seal, to match that, the road that's there.
You gotta put that in there.
It's beneath Valley.
Okay, I got it.
Not
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
So on the slurry, you've been pretty happy with it?
I've been overly happy with that
I
slurry.
mean, it sealed it off and basically,
Yeah,
it just sealed that road
and locked it in,
up.
and, if it continues to hold. like
Alley
it's holding,
View instead of
it'll extend the life.
Valley
of the road.
Ridge, Valley
6, 7
Ridge.
years.
And
Can't
then,
complain about, you know,
Sellers Road is.
hey, you went out on a limb, you know what I'm saying, and did it, and
Uh-huh.
I've been asking you a lot, cause I'm wanting to,
I hadn't seen any cracks in it,
but now it can't be a road that's just gone.
no.
It's gotta be one that
It gotta be
basically
big.
is surface cracking to where you're starting to see that
Right.
moisture get down in the road bed.
Yeah.
And you seal
need
it
a
up.
road That's
Yeah.
the right candidate, and then it'll extend the life of that road another 6, 7, 8 years.
And it was amazing, like I said, the demonstration they did in just a few minutes, you can be walking on it, you know?
I hadn't seen any breakdown, none whatsoever to this point.
Well, that's something that, again, a road plan can be amended. I may have some candidates for it and others here in this, you know, boardroom, so. But I'm prepared to adopt our 4-year road plan if others are.
I have something on my plan, and this is just road improvement, we talked about for Harris Road, for road improvement. It's not on there, so I wish that Harris Road would be added to, for road improvement. I don't see it on here.
Okay.
And that's just to, improve drainage, things of that nature, covers if necessary, for Harris Road.
All right. Anything else? If not, can I get a motion and a second to adopt this 4-year road plan? Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Howard. Any more questions? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
All right.
Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Bagger. Thank you so much, and thank you for getting back with us and dealing with that.
Supervisor Montgomery, can I get a board order for courthouse road?
Yes, ma'am. Motion by Supervisor Miller to get a board order on Poorhouse Road. Second by Supervisor Williams. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor? To get Clyde to see what direction we need to take?
You got to advertise.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. All right. Chancery Clerk business, Ms. Livingston?
I have a couple of things. The first thing I have is I have 2 more erroneous land sales that was on 16 section. The first one is, Latanya Spearman, partial number 155-16-7.01. The second one is Felicia Riley, partial number 145-16-907. I need to acknowledge
What was that
those.
second name? I'm so sorry.
Felicia Riley.
Felicia Riley. Okay, you've heard the request by our Chancery Clerk. Need a motion and a second. Motion by Supervisor
So moved.
Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard to, on the erroneous, tax sale or land sale?
16 section
16
property.
section sale, okay. All those in favor? Any more questions on the matter? If not, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
And then I've got a couple of more things. Rob, do you want to do the first one to go on and prove the ones that have been certified?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do the ones that are certified, it's gonna take a little longer than the others.
Okay. On the election commission, I need to present to the board that we have a few that have been certified. The first one, they need to be certified for the candidate for the election commissioner, will be Sissy Smitherman, Stephen Greg Fulgham, Miles Carpenter, Ernest Rogers, Joe Baker, and Anastasia Elder.
Okay,
I
so,
move board certified.
motion by Supervisor Howard,
Second.
second by Supervisor Trainer, that these are candidates that are eligible to run for election commissioner in their respective districts. Any more questions on the matter?
Yeah, repeat the last one.
Anastasia Elder, and then we've got two that are in question that we had talked about earlier, if the board wants to go forward.
Did we approve that motion?
No, we've not got a motion and a
Sorry,
second.
motion and a second.
Was asking any questions on that. He asked the last person if,
The name,
if not, we need to make them, all in favor.
Howard and Trainer.
Howard Trainer, second. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Sharon,
Huh?
will you give me a copy of those names?
I will.
All right, the first one, bring up, Mrs. Hill. So,
Jessica Hill.
just Miss Jessica Hill. And the question is from earlier. She's done everything she was supposed to do. She just didn't live in the district for 2 years. Her reading of the way the law was to change, I think that confused the issue, and she thought that she complied. I mean, the state law is, it is what it is. My advice as the attorney is to suggest that she doesn't qualify based on that reasoning, for no other reason, because otherwise she qualified.
State statute is not.
Yes, it is what it is, and, this situation, through no fault of her own, other than just misinterpreting what was going on here, and also the fact that it had not been, that there was no update on the Secretary of State's office for her to get some guidance there, so it was through no fault of her own, but it is what it is. So that is my advice as your board attorney on that particular one.
Just to make sure the board has no other recourse other than to follow the law.
I don't think we have any other recourse. When we look at these things, I make for certain that there's, and I went and did a little bit more research on this to make certain if there were another outlet for her to go. And she has already got an affidavit with, when she voted the last time, stating where she lived, and it was not in this particular district. So her own affidavit in that particular scenario threw her out of being able to run in this particular one. But here again, that was not her fault. It was not something that she could have helped. She was just trying to be honest as to where she lived, and she thought she complied with the way the law had changed, or at least she thought it changed.
All right, we need a motion and a second on that to approve. That's on two of them.
That's just on her right now, not approving her. She does not
On the
qualify.
Hill, the girl, the Hill, who is this?
She already left.
Okay,
That was on Jessica Hill.
all right.
I don't think you'll take no action if you don't have to certify.
If you don't certify them, you don't really do anything. You just don't certify them. This other one, that we were dealing with.
Do we need to make a motion and a second on this, or do we need to do them together or separate?
Oh, we don't do any, you do not certify her on this.
Just
one.
take no action.
Right.
Nothing on Jessica Hill.
The next one, you actually had the opportunity to hear from Catherine just a few minutes ago, or now, sometime ago. line here is I've looked at all of her documentation. She is almost in the same situation. However, in her situation, or it's the same issue. In her situation, she actually lived there for 2 years. The issue for her is though, through, our circuit clerk's documentation, she didn't register to vote, at the time that she moved there. But we do have information, and I have, at least 3 affidavits, and, with the permission of this board, I was gonna ask our clerk to provide, to swear in her husband, who is an attorney here in town, and ask him a couple of questions, to be able to suggest whether or not she lived here or not. It is evidence, I think it's relevant, and frankly, one of the few people that would know where she lived at this time is her husband. They weren't married quite at the time that we're stating here, because they did get married, about a year ago. However, he would know probably better than anyone where she was living at the time. With your permission, I'd have him, sworn in and let him give his testimony. Is that okay? It's evidence that y'all can look at, and you do have other evidence here.
All right, question. If you don't, I'm just asking generically.
Sure.
If you live in the district, but yet you've not, like you're saying, applied or registered in that district, I know you can't vote that way. In other words, it would be, your vote would get cast out even if you didn't do the paperwork. So my question is, what signals when the 2 years starts? Is it
Residency.
residency? Doesn't matter if you don't
Doesn't matter. Residency.
register
If
in
she-
that district.
To make this even easier, if she had had an electric bill in her name, the electric bill would have been the only thing she needed. The difference in this situation is,
Bank statements.
well, she has the bank statement. I've got all kinds of evidence that she did live there, but the big deal for her is all of this information that she would have had is in her husband's name. And because, there's no reason for her to attach her name to this stuff, to show that she lived there, because it's already.
It's too
in
much
her husband's
trouble
right.
when you're
Nobody
just-
would have in the vault done that.
Well, swear them in.
We have records, we have records when they got married.
She will, tell you what, let's have, Mr. Hurl come up here, he can answer these questions very quickly. And
Do you have records of when they got married?
Yes.
they've only been married a year, but I don't wanna suggest,
All right.
tell you what, I'll let Mr. Hurl answer these questions, that way I'm not putting him on the spot.
Sure, just real quickly, as far as my role here, y'all know I'm an attorney, I'm also a part-time county employee, so we've got to be very careful about conflicts of interest. I'm not here representing Catherine Van Housema, she's my wife, I'm here for moral support. Rob called me about an hour before this and asked me if I would come down here and just answer some questions under oath about when she moved here and that type of thing. So just want to make sure that that's clear to everybody. I'll be glad to answer whatever questions you have, Rob.
Thank you. Would you swear me in, please?
You would raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause for this case is the truth, the whole truth? So help you God?
I do.
Would you state your name?
Jay Hurdle,
And how do you know Kate?
that's my lovely wife.
And how long have you been married?
We've been married since last April.
And she actually moved to the location in which y'all live now, when?
She moved here May 2nd, 2018. She had just finished up her classes for her PhD program at Indiana University, and so she moved down here May 2nd of 2018. So that was the actual date, and I know that because that was just a little over a month before I proposed to her, so I kind of remember that time period pretty well.
All right. When she moved here at that time, was it her intention to stay here and live here as far as the foreseeable future forever?
Yes, it was something we planned for quite a while.
And it was her intention that would be her residency?
That's correct.
I have no further questions unless the board has some questions they would like to ask. Just for numbers wise, that would put her over the 2-year statute that we're supposed to be getting over at this point, correct?
Well,
Yeah.
think my job is just to answer the factual questions, I'll leave the legal stuff to you.
When is that cutoff? When is the date that,
It's actually the election day.
so if you move, if it's November, what, 3rd?
She could have moved in November 2018, if I'm getting this right.
November 2nd, 2018.
2018, and she still would have been within that timeframe.
Okay.
She, using this, the numbers that we're talking about, she made it 2 or 3 months, depending on what date we plant this at. So it's 2 years is 2 years. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. That being said, I
Just
mean,
one more question.
Yes,
Do
sir.
you have any documentation showing that, this candidate actually lived?
Let me tell you what I do have.
Since 2018?
Yes, sir. I have bank records that show that, and when I say records, these are postmarked to go to the address in which she lives. Since that time frame, I also have medical records, and I asked her to go back and actually get the lease from her old lease so that y'all are aware. And the lease, when she moved here, she had a lease in a certain location, and it ended, and about that same time is where she says she moved here. So this is an ending lease of where she I don't think, her husband didn't make her sign a lease when she moved in, but, the bottom line is, when she moved from the location where she was, living, that was the end lease. She moved to Mississippi at that time, and she's lived in that same location ever since.
When did it end?
It started in 16 and ended in 18.
When in 18?
8-3.
Okay, but she moved in, she graduated on May 28th?
so even if you went to, that would be August 3rd of 2018.
Right.
It's within.
Or May,
She's
it really
still
doesn't
within-
matter.
Within the
May,
time frame.
correct.
That is not a point of, that's why I asked the question, when's the, when would it?
My main thing was to make certain that I provided y'all with enough documentation to get you over that date threshold. If she had had an electric bill, or if she had had a lease agreement or something like that, it would have made life a little easier, and I wouldn't have asked him to, I mean, the best testimony he can give is someone that lived with her. However, it is her husband, and I felt like she needed to have others, so she's got 4 or 5 other affidavits. How many did you end up having?
I currently have 3, but if the board needs more, I'm happy.
Okay, we have 3 affidavits that stated that she's living there. Her husband has testified to that. I have bank records, and I also have an old lease that ends in 18, in August of that same year. So we should be pretty clear that she was living here. Now, it's for this board to determine whether or not that's enough evidence. And in all honesty, y'all could determine this in whatever way you want to. You could determine it under the same, as Ms. Hill, that she didn't. However, y'all are the fact finder here, and they've provided enough evidence here to suggest that she could.
And I don't foresee a problem, but I do wanna back up to Ms. Hill. In this particular case, there's no evidence disqualifying her.
You're talking about Ms.
Residency, no, this particular, not this.
Correct. There's no evidence to disqualify her, whereas unfortunately for Ms. Hill, there was evidence to disqualify her.
And remind me again what that evidence was.
The evidence for her was when she voted, she had actually signed an affidavit stating where she lived in that particular affidavit, because I think she had to vote by absentee ballot, and it actually had that location. And I think, in fairness to Ms. Hill, she'd told me several times that she had just moved.
Yeah, and I think the physical evidence we have,
Right.
saying that she actually didn't live in that.
Right.
Whereas we have nothing here that disqualifies.
Right, yes, sir. There's no evidence that should take, to not
That she
qualify her.
lives somewhere else?
Correct.
I'm satisfied with the evidence I've heard. doesn't matter if it were May or August, I mean,
Right.
if it goes for 2 years, then I'm good with it. Any more discussion from other members? If not, we need a motion and a second to either qualify or do nothing, so.
We qualify the candidate.
Motion made by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Miller. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. I say congratulations, but then again, condolences. So, well, I appreciate you coming and all the facts were heard. So, anything else from?
That's all I
from the
have.
clerk? All right, thank y'all.
Is that all I need to do?
All right, County Business Administration, Ms. Emily. Need a motion and a second to accept those. All right, motion by
Second.
Supervisor Miller, excuse me, Williams. Second by Supervisor Miller. All right, any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
We've got a request from, Burns Construction for that, board cover that they gotta put in out there on Stone Boulevard to get advance payment on it, so they can pay the vendor, which is acceptable by state aid.
That's in the original contractual agreement, that's not gonna, cause an overflow of funds.
Yeah.
All right, need a motion and a second.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Howard. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Sharon, what he signs. You can
Okay.
sign too.
Okay.
Got right-of-way request for Sellers Road for the water line. Under the road, or across the road, it's 780 Sellers Road.
Motion by Supervisor Howard,
Second.
second by Supervisor Williams. Any more discussion on the matter? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Request for Atmos Energy for gas line, running around, running down, or across East Courthouse Road and Sunnyland Drive.
All right. Need a motion and a second on that. Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Trainer.
No.
Huh?
Make Miller motion that, I believe.
All right, we'll make a,
And I just wanna say too, that Atmos has a, through the, Brandon Presley's office, public service,
Public Service
there's a
Commission.
hole out there to expand Atmos off down South Montgomery, going south, down South Montgomery as well. So if people are interested in getting natural gas, they can just click on that link. I do have it posted on my supervisor page.
got you. So motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Trainer on something that is badly needed, of course. I think Starkville and, of course, Ocklawaha County were about tapped out on gas. So it's a great thing to bring in. It's added benefit of the economic, the development that we've got going on out there off of 389. So got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Got a budget amendment for building and grounds, for we need to take, $312,000 I'm increasing. Other improvements, $312,000 for other improvements out of the building line item for the, retaining wall at the jail. This will be reimbursed partly by grant and partly by county funds.
Motion for approval.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Miller. So you say partially, what percentage do you think that will, or amount?
Ms. Campanella, what part is it?
I think it was 190.
190 for state, grant funds.
Okay, and the sheriff's officer will pay the remaining balance, is that what
The
you're saying?
county gonna pay for the balance.
Much needed, of course, so that's been a problem in our side. So good to get that done. So we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries.
Budget amendment for the volunteer fire department for, this is where we had to do some rearranging for it, from the expenditure part of it for, changing our coordinator and our training officer from a contract labor to, employees for state retirement,
Gotcha.
social security.
Need a motion and a second to approve the amendment. Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Trainer. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor? Motion carries.
Got a budget amendment for the sheriff's department for $291 for grant proceeds that came in for the seatbelt grant
All right.
reimbursement.
Need a motion. Motion by Supervisor Howard. Second by Supervisor Miller. Everybody's yawning tonight. So, any more discussion on that? If not, all in favor? Motion carries.
We got, request for 911 road names, Davis Lane, Woodland Spur, Yonder Way, Countdown Cove, and Seven Scene Trail. I call this is a site in supervisor trainer's district. I say little houses. Do you know where's Yonder Way?
Seldom
Yeah,
seen.
it's out on, out of
You'll
St.
have a
Creek
hard
Road.
time keeping that county side.
Yonder Way and Seldom Seen Trail, that one's gone. Yeah, so we better put some GPS strips in those things.
Approved, Toby, if you would adopt these 911 road names.
So moved.
All right, motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard. So none of these are all good by Toby, no, what's the word? No duplicates, cause that's been, all right. If not, all in favor, motion carries.
We got, to approve, we need to approve the travel for anyone that, whoever y'all would like to go to the convention in August.
All right,
Mississippi Association Supervisors Convention.
need to approve going to the convention.
Can we also, the minority caucus meeting was moved to August too. Can we put that in the same order?
Sure.
Yeah, because it was, I think it already,
Is that is down at the
it's gonna be in Jackson the following week.
next week?
The following.
So why not, just go ahead
Yeah.
and do them both. So
Right.
travel to the MAS convention in August and the minority caucus in August, might as well book them both at the same time. So, motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Williams. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
Okay, I've got a few more things that came in today that I need to get approval on. We have the payment bonds and, payment bond, performance bonds, and proof of insurance for the jail project from the contractor, and need to get an order. Rob was supposed to look over them, so we could go ahead and award that project, get him started.
Okay.
They met with Rob's approval.
Need to make a motion a second to approve the contractor on that.
Yeah,
Project.
accept their payment bonds and their performance bond
All right.
as being adequate.
Motion by Supervisor Williams, second by Supervisor Miller. Any more discussion on the matter? If not, all in favor? Motion carries. Do you need me to sign this anywhere, Ms. Hamlin?
Okay, I've got, came in this afternoon. It's a supplemental agreement, it's not a change order yet. Once it gets approved all down the line, then there will be a change order. But, it's on the Blackjack Road project across from the, Helix Apartments, I think. They're gonna have a concrete retention wall, and they're changing it from a concrete retention wall to the concrete blocks. And it's gonna save, the county like $175,000. But I need to get an order from the board to
Like
do
you say,
it.
When you said change order, I cringed. The other one.
Supplemental agreement, yeah, by
Okay.
changing it from a solid wall to the blocks, it's gonna save about $175,000.
And it'll look better too.
save money.
Motion for approval.
Look at here, Supervisor Williams saves it, Supervisor Miller's gonna second that. Any more discussion on that? If not, all in favor? Motion carries more than unanimous.
Last thing I got is, we need to renew our Pitney B.O.S contract for new, postage meter in my office that I share with the circuit clerk office, and it's, for $59.27 a month.
Need a motion and a second. Motion by Supervisor Howard, second by Supervisor Miller. To renew the Pitney B.O.S contract, and it saves money, that actually
Yeah,
saves
it's
money in the long run.
Yeah, it's,
sure.
what it was, the one we had was $82 a month, and this one's $59.
There you go.
Y'all need to decide who y'all are gonna pick on these.
All those in favor? Motion carries. We have got on our hands here the official ballot there for the Mesa trustees. And we've all signed it. We just need to pick who we want to put on there. And I am of the opinion, let's pick the ones that were on there previous. You know, I mean, they were the ones that stepped forward and served. And so we got to pick 6. We've got 9 on here. So if you feel different, I don't mind that. But Miss Emily, can we get with the original 6 that were on there and pick those? That's what the board's okay with. Do we need to make a motion in a second to adopt this right here? So we need a motion in a second to pick those 6 candidates that were on there previous, be it an official ballot, or we've also signed the proxy, just in case for some unseen reason that the convention may not happen, who knows? So at this point, it's on. So need a motion and a second to approve these. Motion by Supervisor Trainer, second by Supervisor Howard. Any discussion on the matter? If not, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. All right, we'll send that down there. I'll take it, or you can take it, either one. All right, county business. Do you have anything else, Miss Emily? You good? Is this the member at large appointment? Is this the hospital, or what is this now? This
Yes,
was.
it's the
Okay.
hospital. Mr. Walter Williams passed away. My recommendation is to appoint Miss Dr. Peggy Rogers to serve out finish out his term. I think he has, what, 2 years? 3 years?
I think it expires in 21.
Okay.
Yeah, August of 21.
So you're gonna put Dr. Peggy Rogers on there.
Right, okay.
And who was it
And
that
this is
passed away?
your,
Walter Williams.
this is his at-large appointment. So.
Right. And so when that term expires, then I think it goes to Marvell. So he can deal with it once it expires.
That'll work.
What goes, yeah.
Yeah, well, mine rolls off, right, and his rolls on, and I think it's either this year or next year, it's not long.
21, August 21.
Okay.
Y'all could have the choice of when somebody passes and to appoint somebody to finish their term, or just go ahead and pass it on to the next one to start a whole new term. But you and
Well, what I saw was-
chosen to do it this way.
Well, it went by the time frame, or whatever, and,
Okay.
but, all right, so that's your motion to put Ms. Peggy Rogers on there, all right? Second by Supervisor Howard. Any more discussion on the matter? Not all those in favor? Motion carries.
You get some relief now? She'll have something
All
else
right.
to be worried about.
You'll have them on the run up there. man.
I said, you'll get some relief now. She'll have something else to be worried
No, I
about.
won't never get any relief.
Yes, you will. You'll get some.
She loves me too much. So, anything else? I guess we'll,
I hate to do this. Not the last appointment, but right before that, what did we vote on? Because we thought, the two of us thought we were already on that one.
the contractor on the jail repair, on the,
No,
The travel to,
no, it was
No.
the one that was something
Appointed-
to do
It was
with
on,
people.
it was on the,
The
it was on
mass
the
election.
Yes.
basic.
Yeah.
Yes.
They had, all signed it, but they had not said who they wanted to pick.
Does that need to be in the minutes?
Yeah.
yeah, it was the 6 existing,
Are they identified on that list?
There were 9 candidates, but there's 6,
And
and
y'all,
to be
the
identified.
ones that were
If
torn
you wanna
down.
know the,
You got it?
I think they-
we will put those,
She's got it.
Okay.
she's got those
She's got
names.
it. That's fine. I'm sorry.
All right, so, anything from any of the board members? I'll start over here, Supervisor Howard. He's like sliced cheese, he's good. All right, Supervisor Williams.
Yeah, I know we had someone talk about, flooded, creek problems. I have a lot of creek problems in, my district. In fact, I have 2 places where homes are flooded. And, I'm glad to see, us move forward with Tom Bigby River Waterway Management District so we can address some of those homes that are being flooded out. One of those, one of those homes on old Highway 25, and another one is on Mount Olive Road, flooded out.
I think, you know, it'll be more official when we're officially in that district, and then we can call down there and make formal resolutions, what have you. I know on Chicago Road, poor thing, literally the backyard was underwater. You couldn't see the Adirondack chairs in their backyard. So if this is a way to fix it, then I think it's up to each of us to ask for it. So certainly. Anything else? I don't have anything from the chair. Supervisor Trainer?
Motion to adjourn.
Supervisor Miller first. Okay.
I just have a couple of things. The bid did get approved for the stoplight on Courthouse Road, and so the time frame on that is how many days, Ms. Emily?
I don't know what the time frame is.
We will report that at the next meeting, the time frame that will be put up. That bid, and everybody knows that Senator Jackson is retiring from his position, so I think we should do a proclamation to honor him.
You wanna do that? We'll do that at next board meeting? Or we can adopt it now.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and adopt it if we could, get it written up.
Motion by Supervisor Miller, second by Supervisor Trainer to do a proclamation to Senator Gary Jackson, who has stepped down. And like I said, and he will, you know, certainly be missed. He's been in there for quite some time. And this is a proclamation to thank him for his service, you know, for the state of Mississippi and our area. So, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. All right, is that it? All right, we got a motion by Supervisor Trainer to adjourn. Second by Supervisor Howard. Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor?
The date, the next
The
date.
next date would be July
July the 7th?
7th.
6th.
At 9 o'clock.
So that's 3 weeks.
There's an advisory meeting, the PDD advisory meeting right before that next meeting,
Was it 8 o'clock, 8:30?
8:30, I think.
Okay,
And they want y'all to double check your appointees with them.
okay. Hey, so, hey, Miss Emily just said we have our, PDD advisory meeting just before, our next meeting on the 6th of July, so be here 8:30 is when that's supposed to start, so be here about 8 probably.
Yeah. I'll double check.
All right, that'll work.